The world is not in your books and maps.
It was already nearly as hot as it had been the day before, but clouds were beginning to come up from the west. It looked likely to turn to rain. The hobbits scrambled down a steep green bank and plunged into the thick trees below. Their course had been chosen to leave Woodhall to their left and to cut slanting through the woods that clustered along the eastern side of the hills until they reached the flats beyond. Then they could make straight for the ferry over country that was open, except for a few ditches and fences. Frodo reckoned they had 18 miles to go in a straight line. He soon found that the thicket was closer and more tangled than it had appeared. There were no paths in the undergrowth, and they did not get on very fast. When they had struggled to the bottom of the bank, they found a stream running down from the hills behind, in a deeply dug bed with steep but slippery sides overhung with brambles. Most inconveniently, it cut across the line they had chosen. They could not jump over it, nor indeed get across it at all, without getting wet, scratched and muddy. They halted, wondering what to do.
"First check,"
said Pippin, smiling grimly. Sam Gamgee looked back. Through an opening in the trees, he caught a glimpse of the top of the green bank from which they had climbed down.
"Look,"
he said, clutching Frodo by the arm. They all looked, and on the edge high above them they saw against the sky a horse standing. Beside it stooped a black figure. They at once gave up any idea of going back. Frodo led the way and plunged quickly into the thick bushes beside the stream.
"Phew,
He said to Pippin,
we were both right. The shortcut has gone crooked already, but we got under cover only just in time. You've got sharp ears, Sam. Can you hear anything coming?"
They stood still, almost holding their breath as they listened. But there was no sound of pursuit.
"I don't fancy he would try bringing his horse down that bank. But I guess he knows we came down it. We had better be going on."
Going on was not altogether easy. They had packs to carry, and the bushes and brambles were reluctant to let them through. They were cut off from the wind by the ridge behind, and the air was still and stuffy. When they forced their way at last into more open ground, they were hot and tired and very scratched, and they were also no longer certain of the direction in which they were going. The banks of the stream sank as it reached the levels and became broader and shallower, wandering off towards the Marish and the river.
"Why, this is the Stockbrook. If we are going to try and get back onto our course, we must cross at once and bear right,"
said Pippin. They waded the stream and hurried over a wide open space, rush-grown and treeless, on the further side. Beyond that they came again to a belt of trees, tall oaks for the most part, with here and there an elm tree or an ash. The ground was fairly level, and there was little undergrowth, but the trees were too close for them to see far ahead. The leaves blew upwards in sudden gusts of wind, and spots of rain began to fall from the overcast sky. Then the wind died away, and the rain came streaming down. They trudged along as fast as they could, over patches of grass and through thick drifts of old leaves, and all about them the rain pattered and trickled. They did not talk, but kept glancing back and from side to side. After half an hour, Pippin said,
"I hope we have not turned too much towards the south and are not walking longwise through this wood. It is not a very broad belt. I should have said no more than a mile at the widest, and we ought to have been through it by now."
"It is no good our starting to go in zigzags. That won't mend matters. Let us keep on as we are going. I am not sure that I want to come out into the open yet."
They went on for perhaps another couple of miles. Then the sun gleamed out of ragged clouds again, and the rain lessened. It was now past midday, and they felt it was high time for lunch. They halted under an elm tree. Its leaves, though fast turning yellow, were still thick, and the ground at its feet was fairly dry and sheltered. When they came to make their meal, they found that the elves had filled their bottles with a clear drink, pale golden in color. It had the scent of a honey made of many flowers and was wonderfully refreshing. Very soon they were laughing and snapping their fingers at rain and at black riders. The last few miles, they felt, would soon be behind them. Frodo propped his back against the tree trunk and closed his eyes. Sam and Pippin sat near, and they began to hum, and then to sing softly.
Hey ho, to the bottle I go, to heal me heart and drown me woe. Rain may fall and wind may blow, but there still be many miles to go. Sweet is the sound of the pouring rain, and the river that runs from hill to plain. Sweeter than rain, a rippling brook, is a mug of beer that brings me luck. Hey ho, to the bottle I go.
They began again, louder. They stopped short suddenly. Frodo sprang to his feet. A long-drawn wail came down the wind, like the cry of some evil and lonely creature. It rose and fell, and ended on a high, piercing note. Even as they sat and stood, as if suddenly frozen, it was answered by another cry, fainter and further off, but no less chilling to the blood. There was then a silence, broken only by the sound of the wind in the leaves.
And what do you think that was?
Pippin asked at last, trying to speak lightly, but quavering a little.
If it was a bird, it was one that I never heard in the Shire before.
It was not bird or beast. It was a call, or a signal. There were words in that cry, though I could not catch them. But no hobbit has such a voice.
No more was said about it. They were all thinking of the riders, but no one spoke of them. They were now reluctant either to stay or go on. But sooner or later they had got to get across the open country to the ferry, and it was best to go sooner and in daylight. In a few moments they had shouldered their packs again and were off.